good to go.
Okay. So like she said, I'm Casey Price. I'm with the Kentucky College of Optometry. I work with admissions solely. That's pretty much all that I do. I'm the person that gets your applications whenever you first get there. I'm the person that kind of screens those and sees where we need to put them together with your OAT scores. So everything kind of funnels through my offices. If you have any questions about optometry throughout this entire process, just feel free to raise your hand, or if it's after this, feel free to shoot me an email because I'm always there to kind of answer those questions. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about the Kentucky College of Optometry. It's the 23rd School of Optometry in the United States. I'm also going to talk to you a lot about what the process looks like and what optometry is and why optometry specifically is a great career path and what you kind of need to do to get prepped and ready to go. First off, though, we need to kind of define. You all, I think, are pretty well on the path of what optometry is, but I always like to talk to groups and say, let's make sure we know what we're talking about when we talk about optometry. And so there are 3 O's in the eye world, in my opinion. There's 3 different O's there. There's the optician, the optometrist, and the ophthalmologist. Opticians, they may or may not be certified. They may or may not have additional training. In the state of Kentucky, as an optician, you can work underneath an optometrist and not have to have a license, but if you own your own area where people will come in and get a pair of glasses made, and if you're there without an optometrist, you have to be a licensed optician. And so that's what an optician does. The optometrist is what I'm talking to you today about, and they're sort of the primary care provider for the eyes. And we'll go into a lot more detail about optometry here in just a minute. It requires a doctorate level degree, so you'll do your undergrad. You can do 3 years if you want to. You can do 90 credit hours of undergrad and then apply to optometry school with just 90 credit hours, or with the expected graduation of 90 credit hours, or not really graduation, but you know what I mean. And then optometry school is a 4-year degree. You spend 3 years in the classroom, and then you spend a full year out in the clinic. Those 3 years in the classroom, that 3rd year you're actually split a little bit between clinic and actual classroom work, lab work. Then you've got your ophthalmology. And ophthalmology takes a lot longer than any of these other careers. You could have both of these careers plus some additional time and still not have enough time to get to that ophthalmology field. You start off with your undergrad. You do, again, 3 to 4 years of undergrad. You go from that into a 4-year doctorate degree, 2 years spent in classroom, 2 years spent out doing your rounds and rotations. And then the 3rd part of that is actually going out and doing your training specifically in ophthalmology. So an ophthalmologist has to have an additional 3 years of training beyond their medical school. And about 11% of students who would like to go into ophthalmology, even after they get through med school, don't match, which means they can't go into ophthalmology. They got to pick something else like podiatry or family practice medicine or emergency medicine. And so they can't even get into working with the eyes. And that's why, in my opinion, the cost-benefit analysis and looking at what you're trying to do with your life, spending the 8 years to get to optometry school versus the years that you would take to get to medical school and then maybe not match in ophthalmology, it could be very detrimental if you want to go through that process. Pay-wise, there's also a big difference between these. So average pay for an optometrist is about $125,000. Average pay for an ophthalmologist, you're looking at about the $300,000 plus. That comes in with a lot of caveats though. Average number of hours working for an ophthalmologist, 46 hours, 47 hours a week. Sorry, I take it back. 36, 37 hours a week. You're at less than 40 hours a week. If you look at an ophthalmologist, you're on call almost constantly if you're in a smaller setting. If you have a partner with ophthalmology, you're on call every other day and every other weekend. My mother came out of the surgery world where she had call every other day, every other weekend. It's rough whenever she's running out of the house at 3 o'clock in the morning because she's got surgery to go do. It's that type of lifestyle you don't have to deal with as an optometrist. You go home for the day, you set up an emergency number, they call that emergency number, you send them to the ER if they're having an issue. You don't have to come back in because somebody's glasses are a little wonky or they've got something stuck in your eye. They just go to the ER and the ophthalmologist deals with it there. All right, any questions about the 3 professions? Cool. So this is a map of Kentucky, as I'm sure you are aware. The dark red states are actually, dark red counties are actually counties that are medically underserved. There are not enough healthcare providers in those areas for the number of people in that area. And I put this up there so you can kind of see what the region looks like, but also so you can kind of compare that to the next slide that I'm getting ready to put up. So this is the number of providers. This is the percent of the population with vision difficulty in that area. These are coming from national statistics numbers. You're looking at the blindest region in the United States. And you're actually looking right here with Allison County. You're looking at the blindest county in the United States right there. The average rate of vision difficulty in the U.S. is 2.2% of the population have vision difficulty. In the state of Kentucky, it is 3.3%. In Allison County, you're looking at over 15% of the population has vision difficulty. And there's no optometry or ophthalmology services there currently. Looking at a region over here in eastern Kentucky that needs optometry more than anywhere else really in the United States. And that's really the biggest reason why we're located right where we are. So this is our mission statement. And I come from the business world where in my background, my undergrad and graduate level courses, we all said, a school, an organization should know what the mission statement is. This is what really ties your whole organization together. Everybody should believe in it and stand behind it. And I think everybody at UPIKE and at our school specifically really stands behind the mission statement. And so every school you're going to see will probably start off their mission statement almost the exact same way. The top 4 or 5 lines will always say, hey, we're going to give you some great education. You're going to go out there and be the best doctor ever. But I think it's that last part that really sets us as a school apart from everybody else that's out there. And that's when we give our clinical care vision science education in a cultural environment of faith, social justice, and human dignity of Appalachian rural America. We're a Christian emphasis school. Doesn't mean you have to participate in those things, but we are a Christian emphasis school. We have students from all walks of faith throughout the entire United States that comes to our school to help practice. And what we teach is that a lot of what you're going to see in your patients, a lot of what determines what they need to do and if they actually follow through with your prescription, with your telling them what they need to do to help improve their health, is what their belief system goes back to. So when you're in a room and you're talking to a patient who believes that they'll just get healed, that's fine. That's their belief system. But as a doctor, you need to understand where they're coming from. And as a student doctor, you need to understand what you need to do to kind of approach that patient so that they will continue on with their course of care that they need to have in order to continue with getting better. We also believe in the idea of human dignity, that no matter who they are, no matter where they're from, no matter how much money they make, when they come and sit in your chair, they're a person and they deserve the highest quality of care that they're going to get. And that goes while you're in the school and also while you've graduated from the school and move on to become a doctor. I like to say that it's great to make money as an optometrist, but that's not the reason that most of our students are graduating. They're graduating to make a difference in the communities and where they are. So that's the biggest reason I think we're looking at students from various different areas, is to try to send them back and say, hey, change optometry where you live. So this is our brand new building, $63 million facility, 103,000 square feet of learning space. Just completed spring of this past year, so less than a year old at this point. Newest, most advanced equipment, diverse disease patient population, unique clinical experience. I'll talk about all those here in detail, as well as a little bit on our interdisciplinary collaboration. So we have really 3 different clinic training facilities. Let me break those out a little bit. We have an on-campus teaching clinic. Our on-campus teaching clinic is based right inside the building on the 5th floor. It is built with 7 lanes inside. So you can go in and actually get patients off of your campus and see patients from there, their families, see what's going on, and try to treat them for things that they may need treatment. If you're on a college campus, what's the average age probably of the college campus? 18 to 22 years old. 18 to 22-year-olds don't have a whole lot of disease. And so when you're looking to become an optometrist, this is the clinic most optometry schools have. We have one, but this isn't our main teaching objective. This isn't where we teach most of our students how to treat disease. This is how you teach somebody how to put on a pair of glasses for a patient. Where we really get the disease training is in our rural area clinics. And so here's a listing of all the clinics that we have planned. I've got 4 clinics that are open currently. The others are in the planning stages at some point. Some have already broke ground. They're getting Breathitt County, not too far from here, they're getting a clinic. They've already broke ground on that one. So we're actually going into communities where they really need the eye care, and we're taking our students there so they get to see patients that have never had an eye exam. The world of optometry and all your ophthalmologists and medicine in general says that a diabetic patient should have at least an eye exam every year. Well, that's not happening in Eastern Kentucky. And what you're seeing is these patients, they just don't go to where they need to go to get an eye exam. They put it off, and therefore their eye health continues to deteriorate. As we go into these communities, we're going into the same clinics where family practice medicine is, their family doctor is, their heart doctor is, their cancer doctor, their endocrinologist for their diabetes. They're all in the same facility, so that those doctors can look at that patient and say, when's the last time you had an eye exam? And whenever they say, Doc, I don't even remember the last time, they say, you're going right now, we'll get you an appointment today to go and get an eye exam down here, down the hall. And they'll come into your chair, and you'll be able to see diseases that other students throughout the U.S. aren't getting to see in their second year. You're getting to see diseases that some of these people have to wait until they're in practice to get to see, because the level of advancement these diseases have become. Okay? Now, you see your patients out there. Let's say we find a patient, and it happens all the time, that really needs advanced care. They need not something you can do in an office, but something you need to bring them into the hospital for. We actually have our third set of clinics, our third style of clinics in Pikeville Medical Center. It's a Mayo Clinic affiliate hospital located in Pikeville, Kentucky. Maybe, probably 3 blocks from the school at this point. So they'll come over there, and if you've got a if you've got a child who is younger, something you don't want to really do in the office or can't do in the office, you can bring them into the hospital and actually have a procedure done inside the hospital. This is all done inside the clinic building, so you're working not only with optometrists, but you're working with ophthalmologists, because both people have a very, very different input on what needs to happen in the medical system. Optometrists are great at prescriptions for glasses. They're great at removing minor lumps and bumps. They're great at doing some laser procedures. Ophthalmologists, they specialize, and they're the only ones that can do cataract surgeries, and they're the ones that can do all these advanced retinal procedures that optometrists cannot do legally. So throughout this entire chain of physicians, an optometrist is able to work hand in hand with ophthalmology and say, I got this patient, they need a cataract surgery, here's what the lens that needs to be implanted needs to be. The surgeon will go in and do the procedure, and then comes back to the optometrist and says, yep, that looks good, everything looks great, we'll sign off. If there's any problems, say that lens gets a little bit cloudy, they can actually take a laser as the optometrist and take care of that. So it leaves those ophthalmologists to do more advanced procedures that optometrists can't do. So this is a little bit of our building. We're very much an open air, very new feel, very similar to what this building kind of feels like. These are our study corrals. So I don't know if you all have dedicated study rooms here, but in medical school and optometry school, it's something that you have to do. You just have to study all the time. You'll start your day, usually in optometry school, somewhere around 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock till noon or so, you'll have classwork. So you'll be in a lecture style classroom. From noon to 1, you'll get a lunch break. We always try to make sure that you get a lunch break in there, because you can't work if you can't function. From about 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock will be your lab sessions. So usually you've got labs every day. Sometimes they end at 3, sometimes it's 5, a little bit later, very occasionally, but most of the time at 5 o'clock you're done for the day. And then after that, you really need to study. And so we'll have these different corrals. I've got 3 different floors of these study rooms where you can go in and spend time on your own if you'd like to. They're built so that you can go in and study solo. So you don't have to share this. It's actually like a cubicle, an 8x8 soundproofed room just for you inside of these rooms right here. So this is our classroom, one of our classrooms. We've got 2 that are built exactly like this. You'll notice that it's not set up lecture style, so it's just like me talking to you. These are built so that you have a new, I don't know what to call it, the new wave or the new hotness in education, but you have sort of this flipped classroom where it's not just a lecture. It's you answering questions and having questions answered by the professor back and forth. It's not just, hey, I'm telling you about the whole whole neuroanatomy system, and now you've just got to regurgitate it back onto a test. It helps definitely facilitate learning in a totally different way. So what a professor might do, and these boards are projectors and 3D TVs. So a professor will usually lecture through in the middle of the room, and my neuroanatomy professor specifically will put up an image on one of these and slide on the other, and he'll actually draw on that image and show you exactly what he's talking about. So the PowerPoint slide will say one thing, the image will have what he's talking about, and then he'll just draw arrows to where he's talking about at that particular time. These little orbs here on the desk, you can tap that, that's how you ask a question. And the reason we have that set up is because each of these has a built-in microphone, and also lets our camera system know that that's the table that's answering or asking a question. That way, whenever you ask your question, that camera knows where you are so it can focus on you, because we record every lecture. If you can't make it to a lecture, although you're supposed to come to every single lecture your first semester, after that first semester, if you decide, I'm doing really well in this class, I'll just watch the lectures online whenever I have time at like 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed or something, and then I'll spend that time that I'm supposed to be in lecture studying something that I'm struggling with, you can do that. And so you can kind of keep up with your own schedule. So everything you can do through this system, you can just do it sort of remotely for the lecture itself. After that first lecture, your professor will probably take you over into this next section. This is our virtual anatomy lab. So a virtual anatomy lab has these nice, they're probably 28-inch monitors that you can be completely immersed in the way they're built. You have a pair of 3D goggles or glasses that go on that are passive 3D. Here's Tyler, I think wearing one of those pairs. And then on the sides of those glasses, it actually has little pips, little reflective pieces. And whenever the computer screen, which has 3 different cameras, picks those up, it'll track where your head motion is. And so as you're looking around, that piece of the body that he's got laying out here, it actually is probably feeling like it's out 2, 3 inches, 4 inches outside the monitor to him. And if he were to move his head to one side, the computer would move the image so that he's looking to one side or the other side of that. We'll get to try that out whenever you all come up on campus here soon. So the second part of our neuroanatomy class, he may take you in there and show you parts of the brain inside the system. The third part, he may take you back to the cadaver lab. And in the cadaver lab, we get to utilize the same cadaver lab that our medical school uses, because he's also a medical school teacher, this person. He would take you to the cadaver lab, and you'd be able to look through true human brains and see exactly where inside that brain someone had a hemorrhage or someone had a stroke. You can see exactly what that looks like and where it is and what that looks like inside the brain. Because these show you what the anatomy is supposed to be perfectly. The human brains have imperfections and flaws and pathology, and you get a chance to kind of look at that and see what that looks like. And then lastly, he'll bring you back into that classroom. And this is where that whole flipped classroom idea comes back in. And he'll give you a case study that says, you see a 55-year-old patient, female, white, presents to your office with a sudden onset of a headache, loss of vision in the right half of her right eye. What do you do? And that's your case. It'll give you a little blood pressure information, it'll give you a little information that'll throw you off the scent and say, well, maybe it could be this. But through looking through this case, you look and see, all right, with all these factors together, she's probably having a stroke. Now, I know that she's having a stroke. What does that mean? Where is the stroke in the brain? Because I know she lost vision in the right half of her right eye. I know that right half of the right eye is controlled in this part of the brain. Okay, I've got the answer. It's here. This is where it's going to be. And that may be a question that you get on your test as well, something very similar to that. Maybe a case study, and that's where you get to answer that question. And so it's things like that that we kind of flip the classroom, so it's not just us saying, yeah, you know, I don't know if you all may be too young for Charlie Brown, but Charlie Brown's teacher, you wah, 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 wah. That's kind of what we don't want to have inside the classroom. We want you to be interactive, and we want you to have a lot of input on your learning, your pathway through this career. We do a lot of research. Research is in 3D technology. Research is in some technology with gaming systems. We do various different types of research, but we're trying to be on the cutting edge. So Dr. Hickenbotham here, one of our professors, got an entire write-up in the magazine that goes, it was a 7-page spread actually, that goes into, it's the Focus magazine, it goes out to every optometrist in the nation that is a member of the American Optometric Association. So it's their national magazine that goes out. he wrote a paper not too long after this about the effects of interpupillary distance misalignment in virtual reality sickness when using 3D stereoscopic roller coaster simulation. That's fancy word for I get nauseous when I watch a roller coaster in 3D. Why? Why do some people, and what does the distance between your pupils have to do with how nauseous you get when you put it on? So is motion sickness in this way because of the misalignment between the monitors inside your eyes and the lenses inside the setup and how far the distance is between your eyes? And so he wrote a paper on that. It was published and went to ARVO, which is the national organization that kind of looks at optometry and ophthalmology. So he's presenting in front of ophthalmologists about this technology. This is an issue that's plaguing Google right now, that they can't figure out a good way to figure it out. And so our students were actually the ones doing research on how to help Google on their side. We just got a grant recently for, well, we are partnered, well, I can say we partnered with a grant from the NFL and the Ohio State University. And so between those two, we're looking at traumatic brain injury and what's that doing to vision, and how can we actually detect traumatic brain injury without bringing that player off for a full concussion workup off the field. So if a player's playing football, they get hit in the head, we just pull them over to the side, look at the back of the eye and say, okay, they seem to be okay by what everything looks like in the back of the eye, put them back in, or no, we probably need to run some more tests and put them over to the side. So that's some of the technology that we're looking at right now. Additionally, we were talking about esports earlier. We have an esports league on campus. They play all kinds of different games, but League of Legends is kind of the big one. Overwatch is becoming the next big one. We use those folks to actually look at research topics. How do monitor refresh rates affect eye fatigue? What do different lens colors do when you're looking at a monitor? Hand-eye coordination in gaming, what happens whenever you do these different techniques to try to improve that? So why Kentucky? And I have to sell Kentucky a little bit harder to people that aren't from Kentucky, but I think it's a great state. You understand that first off, but we've got some amazing laws on the book. 2011, we got a law signed in that was Senate Bill 110, Better Access to Quality Healthcare Act. That law allowed optometrists to perform many new procedures and many new treatment options. So an optometrist prior to this wasn't able to do some of the laser procedures that you see right here. It's fairly easy to perform the procedures. It's basically a joystick. You line up a couple of little red dots and you fire a laser in order to basically drill some microscopic holes into the eye to help relieve pressure inside the eye, something called glaucoma. I don't know if you've heard that before, but pressure inside the eye, you drill some holes there, it helps that pressure leak out. We can also do laser procedures like I mentioned earlier, where you can go in after a patient's had cataract surgery, and if any little bit of that cataract cell, or some of those cells were left behind, you can get rid of those to prevent the cloudiness. We're one of only 3 states that allows optometrists to do this. Oklahoma, Louisiana are the other 2. Oklahoma is the only other one with an optometry school. Kentucky is the only optometry school that will teach you on humans inside of your 4-year degree how to do laser procedures, and will attempt to graduate you, if you'd like to, will attempt to graduate you as a certified optometrist in laser procedures. That's important because that means you don't have to go back after optometry school to perform the laser procedures that you can do inside the state of Kentucky. So if I could, optometry is an easy sell. If I could tell you on one thing of why us more than any other optometry school out there, that's the #1 reason, because you get that more than anybody else out there will get it. We talked about the healthcare needs in the area already, so I'm going to skip that. So we also give what's called the UPIKE Advantage, and this is given to every student as they come in. At least it has been for the past 2 years, and my understanding is the UPIKE Advantage will last as long as the school is there indefinitely. There will be some form of the UPIKE Advantage, and so we will pay for all of your required medical equipment, and we will give it to you. It is yours. You get to keep it after you leave school. So that means your BIOs, the big devices that go on the head, so you can look in the back of the eye. We pay for those. Those are about $3 to $4 grand a piece. They're battery powered. You get to keep that for your office whenever you're ready to go and open up, do some practice there. The individual handheld devices, we pay for those. pay for all of your stethoscope, blood pressure cuff. We pay for an entire case of equipment that has lenses inside of it, so you can tag that along with you, pull it on a plane, go down to Costa Rica and do eye exams for free, and never have to have anything other than what's in that case of equipment. We pay for your membership dues to many different associations because we want you to be very much a part of your state organization. For us, it's the Kentucky Optometry Student Association. We pay for an iPad Pro and just give it to you. It's yours, as long as you're in the program. And when if you graduate from the program, you get to keep it afterward. If you drop out of the program, we take it back. But as long as you complete the program, it's yours. That's because we also require that you have some textbooks, and all the required textbooks, we pay for those as well. You never have to buy a book while you're there. Pay exam fees for the part 1 of the boards. It's pretty nice because whenever you go and take the boards, it's, you know, these little, I've got my student loans, but then here comes another $2,000 bill down the road. We just go ahead and take care of those things for you. We pay for 2 different prep programs for the boards, and that's really important because most schools out there will go with a program called KMK. We've got that, but in addition to that, we've got another prep program for you as well. So we're trying to double up on making sure that you're ready to go with those boards. And then some things with the white coat, your scrubs, all your clothing needs while you're inside of the medical environment. We've got those taken care of. The only thing that you really have to pay for whenever you come to the program are tuition, housing, food. That's really the only 3 things that you really have to take care of. We are a professional dress program, so you know, if you don't have any professional dress clothes, you would have to have those for at least 4 days out of the week. We have a lot of on-campus activities. Our basketball team does great. They make it to nationals fairly often, and I think a couple, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, they won the national championship in AIA. Our bowling, women's bowling team, it does amazing stuff. They're out there winning competitions right and left because I think they actually can compete in AIA and NCAA, and they're winning on both fronts there. I bring this up there not because as a student you would be competing, you've got too much studying going on to do that, but all these events you can go and support them for free, student IDs, that sort of thing. Pikeville is a wide area of outdoor tourism. Hillbilly Days being our big claim to fame, of course. 250,000 folks over 3 days come to Pikeville. It's a town of about 6,000, so that's a lot of people when you come in. Horseback riding, zip lining, whitewater rafting, Ginny Wally Theater. You all watched, let's see, Trading Spaces on HGTV. How about Toy Story? Toy Story the movies? Okay. Slinky Dog from Toy Story got his start on that stage right there in Prestonsburg, you know, basically 3 miles away from where I live currently, 20 miles from the school. That's where Slinky Dog started his career. Multiple on-campus things, though, you can get into. These are all clubs that are built by our school and ran by our students specifically. They get a budget. They get to do what they want to do with their club. You have a sponsor that is, or an advisor that is a faculty member, but basically the club decides what the club wants to do. 2 of the ones that I really want to pull out are the practice management club. So a lot of times in optometry school you get your medical education, but what do you need to make sure that when you graduate you're ready to actually open up a practice and start your practice and know what the business-minded side of that is. That's where the practice management club comes in. They'll bring in these folks that have multi-million-dollar practices in rural areas and say, hey, this is what I did, this is how we changed a practice that was failing into a practice that is making a lot of money, and what changes they made, kind of case studies in management. And then my favorite is the Student Volunteers in Optometric Services to Humanity, SVOSH for short. This club goes out and does those eye exams for free in Costa Rica. Or this year they're going across to a little town over the border into Mexico. And so they're going over there and providing free glasses and free eye exams to people that really don't have access to that sort of thing.
So like, if you join that, like, you can be involved with that stuff like easily? Okay.
Yeah, so the system is built on a 4 years, all 4 year students can get it. We usually take about 15 students per year to go in order to kind of be one of those folks that goes, you earn points through various activities and through various things that you do. So part of that is, and then you spend your points, and say, I'm going on this trip that we're taking this year. So if we take a trip to Mexico and you don't really want to go to Mexico, you wait till the next year and wait until we go to Haiti, and you go to the Haiti trip or something like that. But then you can get those points by either fundraising activity. So you fundraise more for that trip, you get more points for doing that sort of thing. Serving as a member, or not as a member, but serving as a like a president, vice president, secretary on that club. So doing the duties of those individuals. And then the best way to do it, in my opinion, that's kind of out there for everyone, is we get donations of bulk eyeglasses. So we'll get a large box of eyeglasses, and they're just a pair of eyeglasses. You don't know what that prescription is. So you'll go into a lab and actually read the prescriptions on those glasses. It's something that you're trained to do in the first year. You'll read those prescriptions, and you get points by every 5 pairs of glasses that you get the prescription on. You'll get a point. And so you can rack up points by doing that. So then we can take those glasses, you know what the prescription is, you can take those to Mexico with you and give those glasses out. Okay, I've got a pair over here that's your prescription, there you go. And that's their pair of glasses. So these are the prerequisite courses. Leave that up there for a second. You're on semesters here, right? Not quarters. Biology, zoology, any biology courses will work. I do suggest at least one main biology, 101, 151, whatever that basic biology course is. And then something a little bit more advanced. Anatomy and physiology will actually fit into that course. It's not a requirement for us like it is for some schools, but it will fit in, and you can use anatomy as that secondary course. Microbiology is a great course to also fill that in with. Inorganic chem or general chem with labs. All these science courses have to have labs with them, so keep that in mind as you're booking your classes. The chemistry with lab, 2 semesters of that. Organic chem, you only have to have 1 semester of organic chem with a lab. 2 semesters is what's going to be on the OAT though, so I highly suggest those semesters. General phys, so 2 semesters of physics. 1 semester of calculus. So if you're in the biology program, probably you have to take calculus throughout that program. If you don't have to take calculus, then 2 semesters of college level math courses, so Math 150 or statistics. Those would fulfill that requirement. A semester of psych and 2 semesters of English. If you tested out of some of these courses down here using AP credits, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. We'll take those AP credits and roll them right in just like the normal credits, as long as they appear on your transcript from here or wherever it has to be on a transcript. Yep.
I've got a question. I've taken anatomy and physiology, but for my anatomy course, I've only taken a 100 level anatomy, or just human anatomy, and they offer comparative
Gotcha.
anatomy. But I've taken vertebrate physiology, and that's like a 300 level course.
Okay.
Would the lower anatomy count? Because I know some schools, they like to see like a higher level.
So, yeah. So as far as fulfilling prerequisites, yes. As far as what we like to see, now that's 2 different. There's a minimum and then what we like to see on your application. If you went through and completed all the prerequisites with 100 level courses, that's fine. We want to see some upper level courses. It doesn't have to be anatomy. It could be some other 300 level course or a 400 level course. We want to see some advanced science courses in there to let us know that you can actually do the work, but it doesn't have to be anything specific in order to fill that criteria. Biochemistry is a great one. If you want to woo our interviewers heavily, biochemistry is a course that they're just like, oh my goodness, I love that you have biochemistry. So that's one that they're really, if you made an A in biochem, I don't know how they pass on it if you made an A in biochem. These are the courses that are highly recommended, and I say that because these are ones that our faculty members are really looking for. So those are kind of the courses that we talk about there. Another one, odd one, mostly on the physics side, is what is it? Thermodynamics. For some reason, if you made an A in thermodynamics, that's like a big thumbs up from a faculty member as well. Apparently, those are pretty rough courses. Got them? Cool. So the OAT focuses heavily on biology, chemistry, organic chem, physics, reading, and quantitative reasoning. Those are also the scores that we get. OAT ranges from 200 to 400 on the score. You can retake once every 90 days. We suggest a minimum of a 300 on the OAT. The OAT service puts out their averages, and a 300 is supposedly average according to the, I think 55% of students make a 300 or below on that test. So we're looking at a 300 or above for most of your exams. If you made a 290, but you did some great GPA stuff, you keep applying. It's not like it's a hard minimum. We just try to have our students shoot for at least a 300. If you had a little bit lower GPA, it's like if you had make it a 2.95 GPA, but you made like a 350, 360 on the OAT. It's a point kind of buy system. So, you know, you can make a little bit better on one side and do a little bit poorly on the other side. Questions like this are in the quantitative reasoning. This is one of the few questions that I can answer with my background in business and not science. So I was like, okay, what's 1/4% of 200? And for that one, answer is 0.5. So questions like that are all over the OAT. So, degree requirements, we do not require a bachelor's degree. That's kind of important. All schools in the United States of optometry, though, do require that you have a 90 credits in order to get into any optometry school. All requirements are due on the first day of class. Say right now you're coming in from 75 credits, and you know that you'll make your next 20 credits or 30 credits in the next, 25 credits in the next little bit. Is that right? 75? Yeah, 15 credits in the next semester. Then you can apply with just those 75 credits and say, hey, we're good. I'm going to make these next 15, and if they accept you, you make your next 15, you've got your 90 credit hours, you're good to go the first day of class, that's fine. If you're missing out on an English requirement, if you're missing out on that psych requirement, you can even take it over the summer, right before you start those classes, the first summer session if need be. If you're accepted into the program, you're accepted as long as you complete those courses. Minimum score is a 300 OAT. Overall GPA of at least a 2.75. I say 2.75 loosely though, because whenever you get to that range, our faculty members highly focus on the GPA and where that's lying. So if you're below a 300 or a 3.0 on your GPA, you really gotta woo them in some other way throughout everything else that we do. Our average GPA is a 3.3 throughout the entire school. So recommended requirements, we've got 2 letters of recommendation that are kind of an oxymoron. Recommendation, requirement. If it's requirement, it's not recommended, right? I don't know. Anyway, so 2 letters of recommendation from 2 different individuals. One has to be a healthcare provider, and one has to be an educational background person. So one person's commenting on what you can do as a doctor for your patients. The other person's commenting on what you can do in the classroom to get to be a doctor. And that's what we're kind of looking for on both sides there. The classroom person can be a pre-healthcare faculty advisor, or on this side?
I'm not faculty.
Okay, so on this side you can go to any of your professors that you had a class under. That's a great place to go. You all know professors fairly well at the schools. Okay, good. That's a great place to go. Sometimes TAs can write it, but it's iffy. The professor has to sign off on that end. And then science faculty member in general. It would be a good place to go. We require at least 20 hours of shadowing, and that 20 is a minimum. We do require at least 20. 50 plus is really what we're looking for, though. When you go in to apply for this program, we want to know that you know what you're getting yourself into. And 20 hours is barely enough time to see just a few patients and kind of get your mind around what's going on. 50 hours gets you a lot more time inside that office. You can do it on weekends over a year. You can do 5 hours every other Saturday or something for 6 months and work that out. Again, these are sort of the other attributes that we're looking for in students that are applying. We hope that every student that graduates has these, but whenever you're coming into the program, there are some things that we say, okay, this person is really hitting it on these points specifically. Passionate for your life and your profession. We want to see that you're really passionate about growing and about development of yourself, but also from our side, what are you doing to develop the profession? We want you to be leaders, so that means that in your undergrad, we want you to see you become leaders in your clubs that you're involved in. We want to see you hold positions like your secretary, vice president, president, those types of things. Okay?
I have a question about
Yeah.
the leadership thing. What all will you consider for leadership? Like what different things other than like in school, like outside in the community and stuff?
I think you can kind of make an argument for many different things. What we look for is when you fill out your application, we want to look and see that you are leading change and that you're not just a follower. You're not just showing up to the meetings and saying, hey, I was there, let me sign my name and that's it. That you're actually, so it could be that you run a food drive or you did these, if you've got a church community or for me it was 4-H community that I really grew up in. And so,
what about like a Bible study? Like,
yeah. So attending Bible study weekly, probably not. Putting together an actual event, organizing an event, that's what we're looking for, something along those lines. Okay? All right. Cool. I always put this up there because I think it's a nice little piece of information. So 1916, all men were kind of away with war at that time. They were really focusing on that side. We had women and elderly and a lot of children there at the school at the time in 1916. And so during that time, there was an outbreak of a disease called trachoma. And trachoma is pretty debilitating. It'll cause blindness if untreated. It's an infection that will most of the time pop up in populations that you don't have clean drinking water. It's not really found in the U.S. anymore. You're mostly looking in some very underdeveloped regions of where it pops up. But in Eastern Kentucky, it happened, and so our school actually became the center point for treatment of this disease, which I thought was pretty cool because we literally opened the doors in 2016. So 100 years prior, the school was treating an outbreak of this disease, and then 100 years later, here we are opening the school to kind of treat all diseases, not just this one. So I just think it's a kind of neat thing about our history. And you look out the back door, you look out the back door of the optometry school right now, and you can see exactly the building where they kept all those patients as they were treating them. FAFSA, a big deal in higher ed, of course. Make sure you fill it out every year prior to October 1st, I think, it opens October 1st. So as soon as you can in October 1st, get that taken care of. 001980, the same as the undergrad institution. You don't have to go back and forth. Our tuition is $39,600, set to increase at 3% per year, so you don't see any double-digit increases that you do see at some schools. That's in-state and out-of-state. Because we are a private school, we don't have to differentiate between the two, which is nice that you're getting everything at that lower price, because we're right there in the middle of all optometry schools out there on price. Probably don't need to know the Teresa Jones information just yet. Usually that happens after you get accepted. There's our Twitter and my email address, in case you have any questions that I don't answer today. All right. So process for admissions kind of goes like this. You submit your application, early-ish in the cycle, take the OAT, you get everything input, and then we will actually get that application on our side. We pull it into a system. You should get an email that says, hey, we got your application, everything's here. You'll only get that after. If you apply in July but don't take the OAT until later, it only happens once you get the OAT in, and we'll send you that email out at that point. You'll get an email that says that. Make sure you get that email, because if you don't get that email, that means you're probably not going to get any of the other emails from us, because it all goes to the same system, and your spam filter may be catching that. So watch for that. After we get that email, we'll go ahead and review your application, or after we get that application, we'll go ahead and review it. We'll look at your various things that you've put in there, your scores that you've got on there, and then we'll go ahead and refer that out either for an interview, or we'll put it back and hold on to it for a little while. Some students, they really stand out in some areas, but I don't have enough. I've got to keep my averages at a certain level. I can only accept a certain number of students above a certain level, below a certain level, so I'll kind of put it back and say, okay, I really want to get this student as soon as I've got enough of these higher scores that I can offset a little bit lower score, I'll work around on that side. So the higher scores, you'll get an interview immediately. If I get a little bit lower score, you'll maybe wait around a couple weeks, and then you'll probably get an interview out after that. As long as it's a legitimate score. Our biggest thing is making sure in your whole application we have to answer one big question. Can this student make it through optometry school and become an amazing optometrist. That's what we're looking for. And so if whatever you're doing in your application, that's your question that you're trying to answer for us. So that's why you put in your OAT score, that's why you put in a great GPA, that's why you put in all this leadership stuff. That's what we're looking for, okay? After that point, you'll actually sometimes even get, on the interview, you'll get a day of acceptance. During that day, we'll actually hand out packets that say, hey, you're accepted, here's your information, here's what you need to do to get ready to go into classes. Or you'll get a packet of information that says, hey, we could make a unanimous decision today, but what you're going to get is within the next week, our committee will come together and then discuss your application to see if you'll become accepted at that point. The committee discusses that application, says everything's great. You'll then get a call from the dean that says, hey, we'd like for you to come. And then classes start somewhere around, I think it's the end of July is when they start every year. Okay? All right. Questions?